Well, all of last year, as the government printed trillions of new dollars, our Treasury Secretary, Janet Yellen, who used to run the Fed and is therefore responsible for inflation, assured us, no, this is not going to cause inflation. Watch.
We've had several months of high inflation that most economists, including me, believe will be transitory. I personally believe that this represents transitory factors.
Are higher prices here to stay?
I believe it's transitory, but I don't mean to suggest that these pressures will disappear in the next month or two. It is important that we monitor it carefully, but I believe fundamentally, that this is something that will settle down.
Transitory.
Transitory.
Takes a lot of brass for Janet Yellen to describe herself as an economist. Not an economist. She's a ridiculous figure who does not get the credit she deserves for screwing up in a very serious way the U.S. economy. Well, this week, finally, in the face of overwhelming evidence, she had to admit she was wrong. You can't deny it anymore. The economy's in serious trouble. The head of J.P. Morgan Chase, that would be Jamie Dimon, just told investors that an economic hurricane is on the way. Watch this.
I said there's storm clouds, they're big storm clouds, it's a hurricane. Right now it's kind of sunny, things are doing fine. Everyone thinks the Fed can handle this. That hurricane is right out there down the road coming our way.
Peter Schiff is an actual economist of Euro Pacific Capital. He joins us tonight. Peter, thanks so much for coming on. Jamie Dimon is a pretty understated guy most of the time. Hurricane, do you agree with that?
Well, I do, except I think it's going to be a Category 5 hurricane, so I think he's sugarcoating it a bit.
Oh. And what, if you were in charge, if you were Janet Yellen, you were the Treasury Secretary, what would you do to avert it or lessen its effects right now?
Well, unfortunately, there's no way to avert it. I mean, but what we have to do is deal with it in a responsible way, something that Janet Yellen has never been a part of. She's, complaining about inflation, but she helped create the inflation. When she was chair of the Federal Reserve, she kept interest rates at zero for half of her term. And then when she finally started to raise them, it took her 2 years to get to 1.25. And then if you go back to her tenure as the president of the Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco, she was there during the housing bubble and the financial crisis, and at the peak of the housing bubble, she assured the nation in several speeches that there was no housing bubble, and then she went on to say even if there was a bubble, if she was wrong and it popped, it would do no damage to the U.S. economy. So she was incompetent at the Fed, and she's still incompetent as Secretary of the Treasury.
Well, yeah. I mean, and that was demonstrable. This was the most shocking, from my perspective, the most shocking appointment that Joe Biden made. How in the world could he have appointed Janet Yellen, of all people on planet Earth, Treasury Secretary? How did that happen?
Well, it's all politics. But, had he not appointed her, he might have appointed somebody equally bad. I mean, there's so many bad people to choose from because they pick these people for political reasons. It's not because they actually know anything about the economy. Biden wants somebody who's going to validate his political agenda, even if that political agenda is detrimental to the economic health of the United States.
That is all. I wish I could say that's not true, but it's so clearly true.
And whatsoever you shall ask in my name, that will I do, that the Father may be glorified in the Son. If you shall ask anything in my name, I will do it. If you love me, keep my commandments.